Good morning and happy Labor Day weekend. This is a weekend where we in America celebrate the hard worker by making them work hard. Or not at all. That's our special way of doing it. Like most holidays, we've turned it into a special consumer consumption sale extravaganza. And so if you happen to be working in the retail field, you're going to be working hard, but you'll be paid a little bit extra, which is always nice. Otherwise, you're hopefully relaxing at home at family or not even part of the conversation because you're not here in the US. But this opportunity for the duplicity in our energy and thinking and messaging that exists certainly in our culture is a great opportunity, I think, and fun for what I would like to read on today. So I'm going to start with Emmet Fox. I haven't read him on here yet. I went hunting for some more in my box. I have books. I have boxes in the basement and stuff, and I think this message expands so far beyond just the tools I've been using, and I want to keep expanding resources. So Emmet Fox was a contemporary, really, of Neville Goddard. He was a pastor or preacher from the 30s, and he was one who also really started the Christian Science movement, which is seeing the Bible as a source of enlightenment, of the journey to consciousness, and really seeing it as a message that the power is in our mind and that the way we think creates reality. And if we're really following the message of Jesus, that's what we're looking for and up to. And that movement birthed like Science of the Minds, which is where Louise Hay came from, who started Hay House Publishing, and obviously has done a lot to expand the message. I even have one of her books here about healing with your mind. So with that, we'll jump into As Man Thinketh. So this is his book on the Sermon on the Mount. I do love his take on it. You see the book's been through a bit with me. But I think at the top it says, so the spiritual leader who revealed the true power of positive thinking. So here, even in the 30s, I think it's fantastic to add another one that was starting this movement of the power of positive thinking, which I'm into that power. Let's do it. So this is going to start with a little excerpt of the Sermon on the Mount. Ye are the salt of the earth, from Matthew 5. But if the salt hath lost its savor, wherewith shall it be salted? It is henceforth good for nothing but to be cast out and to be trodden under foot of men. Ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. Let your light so shine forth before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. In this wonderful passage, Jesus is addressing those who have awakened to the understanding of material bondage and have acquired some spiritual understanding of the nature of being. That is to say, he's addressing those who understand the meaning of the allness of good or God. I love that he always points out that God and good are almost the exact same word. It's just another O. And the powerlessness of evil in the face of truth. Such people he describes as being the salt of the earth and the light of the world. The light of the world seems to be coming up in quite a few as a theme here. And indeed, that is not too much to claim for those who understand the truth and who really live the life that corresponds to it. It is possible, and in fact only too easy, to accept these vital principles as being true, to love the beauty in them, and yet not to put them consistently into practice in one's own life. But this is a perilous attitude, for in that case the salt has lost its savor and is good for nothing but to be cast out and trodden underfoot. Is such an important point. I think everyone falls into this trap. And I remember even Louise Hay speaking about it early on in her journey, that it's so easy to get these concepts, to talk about them, to sort of regurgitate them and, speak about them. We can all have a great game in that, but the rubber has to meet the road in really applying this work. For her, she got cancer. And that's when she realized she really had to apply it, and her whole journey shifted. And that's really what I want here, is to be it, not just say it. So what does this look like? And it's in the little moments of our life. It's in the thoughts we have. It's in the things we say. and how we manage our feelings. So it's interesting that he points that out right away. If you understand and accept the teachings of Jesus, and if you make every effort to practice them in every department of your own daily life, if you seek systematically to destroy in yourself everything which you know shouldn't be there, he gives some examples: jealousy, pride, vanity, self-righteousness, self-pity, resentment, condemnation, and so forth, not feeding or nourishing them by giving into them, but starving them to death by refusing them expression. I love this, where he's not trying to make you bad or wrong, and he gives you a direct solution, as in just don't express them. Don't focus on them. Don't talk about it. This is also pointing at what Alan Watts would call the spiritual one-upmanship, which is so common, where we're always putting ourselves above or below someone. So, but it's about our focus. He's getting into that here. If you extend the right thought loyally to every person or thing within your ken, especially to the people or things you don't like, see where it's hard. It's easy to like the people you like, but the challenge, or where we really apply this, is thinking positively about people we don't naturally feel positive about. Those are the places where we're really applying this, and that's where we're going to see the benefit when we can do that, or when we do that. Then you are worthy to be called the salt of the world, salt of the earth. If you truly live this life, then it does not in the least matter what your present circumstances may be, or what difficulties you have to struggle against. You will triumph over them all, and you will make your demonstration. And not only will you make your demonstration in the quickest possible time, but you will be, and in a very positive and literal sense, a healing and illuminating influence on all around you, and a blessing to the whole human race. He's saying we create reality by thinking positively about those around us. So just don't give expression to the negative stuff. Don't, criticize, judge, even if you need to not look at those things. Don't watch the news for a while, for example. It's, where I've gotten to, you get all pumped up, or we got an election coming next year. It can be a source of a lot of negativity, but what a great time to practice too, thinking positively about the things you dislike, maybe even watching other parties' stuff that you may not naturally agree to, and just focusing on sending love and really thinking positively around it. Could be an interesting exercise. Maybe I'll try it. You will be a blessing to men and women in remote places and times, men and women of whom you've never heard and who will never hear of you, a light of the world, in fact, as startling and wonderful as that may sound. So not only is the light of the world showing up as a consistent message from these sources, but also that when we're being this way, we impact people we don't even meet, and other times and other places, which is also fascinating that that's coming out. So it also says, never try to force other people to accept spiritual truth. Instead, see to it that they are so favorably impressed by your own life and conduct, and the peace and joy that radiate from you, that they will come running to you of their own accord, begging you to give them the wonderful thing that you have. All right, Emmet. I'm digging it. Now we're going to shift over to a completely different tone, because I think that's just so fun. I dug out an old pro book I have from my pro years of the Yes Factor. This is a different energy. This is about how to get what you want in business and develop an alpha self and be strong. But I opened it up this morning to flip through it, and opened up to the most interesting thing that is very applicable today. And so I'm going to share it, because I think from different sources, different languages, different people, it's just some really good things to say. So this is called the Pygmalion effect. The Pygmalion effect is a form of self-fulfilling prophecy that states that people with low expectations will do poorly, and people with high expectations will do better. In addition, we tend to live up to the expectations of others, both positive and negative. We tend to internalize our labels and fail or succeed accordingly. And I should say that a coach that I worked with in transformation in the coaching industry gave this to me as something, and kind of was a start to this kind of thought process and becoming open into it. Because I saw this in my life and in what was happening in business, as that was a huge part of me at that time. And I could see this and the way it was working. So it says, according to the story by Ovid, Pygmalion, this is Greek mythology, Prince of Cyprus, was a sculptor who carved an ivory statue of Galatea, his dream woman. He instantly fell in love with his creation and begged Aphrodite, goddess of love, to bring the statue to life. The goddess granted his wish, and Pygmalion married Galatea. The statue became the dream woman he had been seeking. He got what he expected. So this would be sort of a mythological story. I'm thinking of Neville right now and how we form something we really want in our mind and subconscious, almost like making a statue of it, imagining it as real, feeling it as real, feeling the feelings as if it were real, which in this example, I'm sure Pygmalion would have done as he sculpted this statue of imagining being with this woman, and that the magic or spiritual piece of us will actually bring it into existence. It'll actually show up manifested, which in this story is Aphrodite bringing her to life. But what a beautiful story of what we're exploring here. We all have expectations regarding others. They are clever or dim-witted, powerful or weak. We communicate these expectations with various verbal and nonverbal cues, and others adjust their behavior to match them. Let's look at a work example. Imagine you're an individual with a normal level of self-esteem who has a manager who doesn't like you. Probably most people can relate to that. You perceive signals and signs that validate your beliefs. What happens is that ultimately you give off signals that spark an unconscious reaction from her. So let's think about that, right? Beliefs are just thoughts we continue to think. And so if I think that my boss doesn't like me, then I'm going to look for signs of that because that's where I'm focused. This is how the law works. What we focus on grows. And I'm not looking for signs that she likes me. I'm focused on that she doesn't like me. And law of attraction, it says, will bring me evidence of that, but also my mind will be focused there. So it's really all the evidence that I'm open to. What happens is that you ultimately give off signals that spark an unconscious reaction from her. So that means you're going to behave in a way assuming she doesn't like you, and maybe you're a little short, or maybe you're showing in some way that defensiveness, which is going to naturally push that person away. They're like, what's wrong with you today? You got thorns. She might decide that you don't like her. Your manager winds up treating you the way that you have anticipated because you have unwittingly set the stage for that exact relationship to develop. Beliefs are just thoughts we continue to think that become reality for us. And those expectations may even cause that individual to behave that way. Interestingly, she's starting to point out there that we might only be able to get certain behavior from people because that's what we only believe is possible from them, which is getting to a bigger conversation of creating reality. And that we actually, people can only treat us how we expect them to. But either way, even if it's just in the little things that we do that give people signs and that we can only see what we believe to be true, it still becomes the same reality either way. Or I should say the result is the same either way. In other words, belief and anticipation play a major role in how our relationships develop, because people behave towards you the way you expect they will. So in other words, we just need to assume everyone likes us all the time and thinks we're amazing, and that will become the reality. It should be easy, right? On a personal level, I have a dear friend who, perhaps because of the way she was raised, was always put up with poor treatment from men. She is a wonderful person, but a date consisted of pizza and chips at her place with a guy who would yell at her to go get him another beer. Then she started dating a new man, and everything changed. He sent her flowers. He took her to dinner. In short, he treated her with a respect she had never had. One night, she called me in tears, overcome with emotions, explaining he had opened the car door for her the way Kenny does for you. What was normal to me was extraordinary to her. She was beside herself. No one else had treated her with so much respect and dignity. It was going to get me a little emotional. It changed her, and it totally changed what she expected in a relationship. That relationship made her a better person. But in some way, she must have had a big desire for that and asked for that and then been willing to allow it. And then one more little story I think is cool here. It says, don't allow your frame to be immersed in someone else's world. Like, what do you do if you really feel someone is coming after you? If an individual takes something out on you, rather than jumping through their hoop, Sometimes people just want someone to fight with. Help that person melt away their anger by changing the frame or forcing them to hold on to their anger and keep it to themselves. Years ago, when I worked for a financial firm, I remember one manager who, whenever something was brewing, would immediately burst out in anger and lash at anyone within 20 feet who had their eyes in her direction. We had a new supervisor in our department who didn't know the rule of keeping your head down when Miss Thing went off the deep end, and the new supervisor became the target for the brunt of the manager's contempt. Instead of yelling back, breaking down, or walking out the door, which is what I might have done, she looked the manager right in the face and so empathetically said, "Wow, that meeting really upset you." And then she walked away. By not getting self-protective and putting out fighting words, she diffused the situation, utterly confusing the manager and keeping her own frame intact. She didn't absorb the manager's negative energy. Instead, it bounced right off of her. And that's a great, very practical application of what happens when we are in a vibrational space that's positive and good. No matter what comes at us, we can be unconditional and serve someone. She served that woman in a way to kind of snap her out of it and let her know, like, I'm not the right vibrational space to play with you in this. But of course, if people come at us and we're not in that vibrational space, it's a lot easier to react rather than being able to stay neutral and just unconditional in how we are. So these tools are so powerful in any area of our lives, because the more we can stay neutral, I mean, the saying in business, right, is the most calm person in the room is always the most powerful person in the room. So that's another piece of when we're feeling really good and happy, thinking positively about people around us, we're not going to be as reactive. We're just going to take things in and be able to really be with that person and just be like, wow, you're really upset. It's beautiful. All right, shifting gears to one last today. This is the life and teaching of the Masters of the Far East. I have all the volumes. I love this series. It's an interesting series because it has very deep stuff in it. But then if you study its origins, you're kind of like, these gentlemen have an incredible story with so much wisdom in it. About claiming to go be with masters in India at a time when obviously international travel, I think again, this is like the 30s, was not that common. Okay, 50s. But then they later discovered that they didn't actually go to India. There wasn't really evidence of that. But I think they established that they did it in meditations and continued the conversation about the masters. And when you read the books, there's really masterful stuff that feels it's definitely flowing from spirit in there. So I am going to read a little section of questions and answers from here. And it says, question, where do inspirational ideas come from? The answer, the world of ideas is all about us. You may have any one of several conceptions regarding the meaning of inspirational ideas. Most so-called inspirational ideas are emotional expressions that have little significance other than that of deep feeling. He's speaking here again of the connection between feeling and thought. Other inspirational ideas are those flashes of clear-sightedness that enable one to act wisely in an emergency. Possibly the questioner has in mind that profundity of thought achieved by philosophers and saints by means of their disciplines. This is the real consciously breathing in the spirit of universal wisdom that permeates all space. How do we get inspirational ideas? Answer. In a sense, we generate them within ourselves by disciplining our bodies to serve as channels to receive the currents of universal mind and transform the one force in such a way as to intercept the universal laws that are accepted or that are expressed in the diversity of phenomenon. And I find this fascinating. He's really talking about the same thing Abraham does, the same thing that I've been reading in a million different sources, even Emmet Fox. And another reading I'll do, he starts talking about the cosmic law. Neville Goddard's talking about the law of assumption and flowing it in from your subconscious to your conscious. So here he's talking about really this information is available to all of us. But It's about getting ourselves in the right. It says disciplining our bodies to receive the currents. What is that? That's talking vibration, current again. And how do we do that? We do it by getting our vibration up, being in a great mood. That's really how we discipline our minds to focus on the positive, to get in a great mood, to begin to receive this level of inspiration. Why do our ideas seem to come from outside sources? The answer. At our present stage of development, we are not prepared to recognize the source of all the forces that are active within us. Life is a universal force, which we know in living tissue, but we do not know where life comes from or where it goes when it leaves the body. Electricity is used every day. We know it may be generated, but we do not know where it comes from. To describe thought as a force expressed in ideas that are generated may be somewhat less tangible, but the analogy is evident. We think, but the source of the energy is hidden. Yet we do know that we can increase our thinking capacity and efficiency. Is it any wonder then that the average mind is confused when it is said that thoughts come from within? It certainly does seem that they would have to come from without, but so it is with electricity in life. Prepare certain conditions, and like life and electromotive power are at your disposal. Prepare the mind, and inspirational ideas will be generated within you just as surely. And I think it really helps to provide the distinction that we think we're generating thoughts. But the truth is we're a sending and receiving mechanism. And that's why the thoughts in our mind change so much based on what our vibration is. So I do really appreciate the clear metaphor for electricity here because it's understandable, right? And let's see, Abraham always uses the metaphor too of tuning a radio dial. So, you know, when I'm listening to one radio station, I can't listen to the other radio stations. And that this is about when you tune your radio, you're going to pick up different vibrations, and it's going to feel like those thoughts are coming from somewhere, but really they're coming from you and where you are vibrating at to receive those, your own little radio dial. What is your attitude towards the present upsetting social conditions? Well, nothing's changed. This is 80 years ago, 70 years ago. I do not give them any energy. If we would withdraw the energy we give to thinking about upsetting conditions and build up our own bodily conditions with that energy instead, we could correct any conditions immediately. Fascinating, saying the solution is within us. Stop thinking about negative stuff. Think about your positive stuff. Build up what's going on inside of you. Focusing on getting your good energy going, your happiness, your joy, your freedom. And then it's saying everything will be resolved. So pretty funny. It's the same message. So with that, I have one tiny little thing I'm going to read from Wayne Dyer and Esther Hicks, their conversation, co-creating at its best. It says, are there ascended masters? And the conversation we were reading is really supposed to be sort of with a master. So these are more masters. And Wayne is asking, are there ascended masters out there? I mean, we hear so much about people like Saint Germain and Jesus. And actually there's a reading in here about Saint Germain too, so it made me think of this. Well, this alignment, so Abraham answers Wayne's question, well, this alignment is not like a college degree, where once you achieve it, it's yours forevermore. It either is or it isn't in the moment. But there certainly are those who catch the spirit of that alignment and work to maintain it, and that's what you're talking about. So here alignment is that tuning of that radio dial to that positive place. Can we access these people, Wayne asks. They're available to you at all times, Abraham says. Just get focused on what they're interested in and see how readily available they are to you. And what are they interested in, Wayne asks. Everything that you're interested in, they're eager. You see, this physical time-space reality is the leading edge of thought. Humans often think that this is just a trial ground and that heaven is where it's at. But this is the leading edge of thought. This is where thought manifests. This is where it's at. And Wayne said, earth is crammed with heaven. Earth is heaven or hell, your choice. So I've read that before, but I just feel it's so apropos here, because really it's like we're continuing to ask, well, are there awesome people out there? Where are they? Can I access them? It's saying the exact same thing as life into you. It's within you already. Get your dial in the right place and you can access it. What are they interested in? What you're interested in. Just get happy and you'll find that you have access to this information. So again, instead of trying to look for it out here, realizing it's within us, and pulling our power back and focusing on how we're feeling, focusing on how we're thinking about other people, and thinking about things in a positive way, no matter what's coming up. So I'm going to take that wisdom with me throughout today and see how I do with focusing on all the positive, good things that are around me, or looking for the positive in everything that's around me and getting that positive energy up. I'm learning it. I am getting traction in feeling the difference of where I focus. And that's very exciting, because for a while I couldn't feel a real difference of pulling me to a different vibrational space based on what I was thinking. And I think the meditating, the moving, and the focusing on this every day is really helping me understand the difference, the subtle differences at first in how I feel. And then of course they grow and become more and more. So anyway, I just want to say thank you so much for being here with me today. That really, just that reading alone shifted my energy. I'm feeling excited and happy. So I hope you get the same. Have a great day.